welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make one of my go-to meals that I like to make on the weeknight when I come home from the gym and I'm really hungry and I want something fast but still sort of nutritious. So I like to make these tofu bowls with some stovetop sort of sauteed tofu that has a lot of rich flavor with few ingredients, roast veggies, and rice to just hit the protein, veggie, and carbs all at once. First, I'm going to start with the veggies because that's what takes the longest. Today I'm using some of my favorites like cabbage, which gets really sweet when you roast in the oven. Broccoli also will get that sort of like caramelized tops to it. Some onion, and then I have some wilty celery that I want to use up, and carrots, which also add a nice little sweetness, some color, and good texture. So I'm just going to chop that right now into decent size slices. While I'm doing this, I usually preheat my oven. I actually already did it today, but I preheat it, at 400 degrees. I just cut up that half of a green cabbage, and it makes a lot, but this does wilt in the oven, and it's so good that I don't mind if it's mainly all cabbage on this pan. Yes, now I'm gonna chop the carrots. I like to keep the carrots kind of thin because they are the most dense vegetable in this mix, so I want them to be done at the same time. I'll just do it on a slight slant to be fancy, but it's sort of, I would say, 1/4 to 1/2 inch in between in thickness. In these carrots, I already peeled them. You can either peel them or just give them a good scrub. And you can change up sort of, the ratio of all the vegetables depending on what your favorite veggie is or what you have on hand. So now I'm going to cut my celery. Now, if you can tell, this is the interior stalks when you get the bunch of celery. So they tend to be more tender, so I don't need to cut them so fine because they might just overcook. So I'm just going to sort of do bigger diagonal chunks of the celery. With the leaves included because they're also very flavorful. And then I'll also get some onion in there. These, again, I'll still keep pretty chunky. And then onto the broccoli. I trimmed the stalks because I'll also use the stalks and then just trim off the end so it's not too dry. So I'll have sort of discs of the broccoli stalk and then do the florets. So for the smaller florets, I'll just break them in there. This is a good size. This guy I would cut in half. Again, just so they cook evenly and get the same amount of seasoning over them, same amount of color. That was terribly cut, but keep it going. And then again, for these stalks, just cut them pretty thin. They can be a little bit tough, but with peeling the outer layer, as they cook, they'll get nice and tender. I always recommend using the stalk. It's less waste and it's a cheap ingredient. So even if you didn't want to add the stalks into this, you could keep this part for a stir fry later in the week. So now I have all of the veggies cut, and since there's such a large volume of veggies here, we're going to put this mixture on 2 sheet pans just so they can all get an even amount of heat and the cooking time will be quicker. I like to season the veggies with soy sauce, and I put some olive oil on there as well. It helps with the cooking. I like the texture when you get those more crispy bits, and I just like cooking with oil. But you could do an oil-free version. I would just make sure that you put if you have like non-stick silpats down, because the oil does also help with the non-stick process. Low sodium soy sauce to season these. And the reason why I like low sodium when cooking is because I like to add a lot of soy sauce because I like the flavor of it, but I don't want to over salt it. So this is going to get a nice generous amount. And yes, I am just eyeballing this. That was a fresh bottle, so that was about a 1/4 cup of soy sauce for all those veggies. And this is a lot of servings. This isn't just for me for lunch. This is, I would say, at least 6 servings when it cooks down and the volume reduces a little bit. I like to get a good amount of oil in there. That was probably only 2 tablespoons actually. I will put some more oil on the pans again for non-sticking, but also I just like how veggies cook with olive oil and how they caramelize. So nice little drizzle. Smoosh it around. Get it in the corners and up the walls of the baking sheet. So now I'm going to mix these vegetables just so they can get an even coating of that soy sauce and olive oil. And then I'll try to evenly distribute them on both sheet pans, but don't have to get too crazy. I will take a bite of one of the pieces of cabbage just to make sure the seasoning is right. You can also see it when it has, you know, the sort of brown lacquer over it. I love cabbage. Now I'm just going to put these on the pans. Try to do half and half. Spread them out evenly as best you can. I'm going to pop both of these pans into that 400-degree oven for at least 25 minutes. Part of the bowl is rice, so I'm just going to simply make some white rice. Today I'm using 2 cups of rice just because this is more of a cooking in bulk meal prep sort of application. Gonna have some for lunch today, package up the leftovers, and have lunches or dinners for the rest of the week. While that's cooking, all that's left, the last component, is the tofu. So this is a tofu, well, it's not really a recipe, it's just how I cook tofu and how I find it to be most flavorful. It's just simmering it on the stove top with some of my favorite flavors. But first I'm going to prepare the tofu. I never cut it the same way. Each time I do this, depends on if I want big cubes or small cubes. Today I'm probably going to do medium cubes. So I just cut it lengthwise 3 times. Probably cut this 4 times this way. That was 3 times that way. Anyway, I can't count. 4 times that way. Anyway, it's in these little cubes. So that's about 3/4 of an inch, would you say? So once I cubed it, I just put it in this pan, and no need to bring this up to heat first. I'll actually put a little bit of olive oil just to keep stickage down. And I like, honestly, I like a little bit of oil, a little bit of richness when I'm making tofu. It keeps it from, I don't know, eating like such a health food to me. And I like a little bit of unctuous fat coming from olive oil. I think it makes the tofu extra delicious and craveable. So I just swoosh around the olive oil, get the tofu in there. I usually do 1 block of tofu, but today I am doing 2 because, again, keeping in the theme of bigger volumes just for meal prep. My tofu is cubed and in the pan, but I noticed that the rice is up to a boil. So I'm just going to put the lid on that, reduce to simmer, and I'm going to set the timer to 15 minutes. I notice that it's done in 15 minutes, and then I always move it to the side and let it hang out, and it's perfectly cooked every time. Back to the tofu. So this is what I normally do. I just sort of eyeball again, some of my favorite flavors. Back to soy sauce, keeping the ingredient list low for this bowl. I put it all over the tofu. Again, this is low sodium soy sauce, so you can't over season as easily if it was regular soy sauce. I like to add my magic ingredient, which this is kind of a semi-homemade moment with this recipe, is I like to add the very, very teriyaki marinade. Just a small round of the pan, because it does add some sugar to it, and you don't want it to burn, but it adds a nice sweetness with this. Today I'm going to add a little bit of chili garlic sauce. It's not something that I always add, but I feel like if I don't add it to the tofu itself, I end up adding it to the bowl. So then I just started adding it to the tofu. Depends on how spicy you like it. I'm just keeping it around a generous tablespoon for the 2 blocks so that it's not too spicy, because my fiance doesn't like too much spice in the evening, so I'm going to keep it mild. And then, what is key, fresh crushed garlic. I'm a garlic fiend, so I'm adding 5 cloves today. You could add 1, you could add none, but this is my kitchen, so we're adding 5. Just put all 5 cloves of garlic in there so you could see that is a healthy amount of garlic. Now all that I have to do is add a splash of water. That'll just make the flavors really mingle. We'll get this on the stove top and cook until all of the liquid nearly evaporates, or almost all the liquid evaporates. So this is just on the burner set to a medium heat. Adding the water now. Just eyeball it, enough to sort of go up halfway, and this will just allow you to really get the flavors all coated on all of the tofu pieces rather. So I'm just gonna mix that, get it incorporated, and just let it cook as the rice and veggies do. Oh, they look so good. The top ones are. I took a sneak peek at the veggies and they're looking gorgeous. You want to take a look? And I just wanted to give them, since the tofu is still going, I figured I'd give them a quick toss and get them back in just so they'll be evenly brown, but look at how brown and gorgeous they're looking. These year-round turkey oven mitts. They're easy to toss, I think, because of, mixture of the, liquid from the veggies and the olive oil, so nothing is sticking, even though it has all that caramelization. Savage. So as you can see, a lot of the liquid has evaporated from the tofu, and it's just sort of soaked up a lot of that flavor, and it's ready to serve. So all I have to do is take out the vegetables from the oven and we'll assemble the bowl. So I have my bowl, I'm gonna put in some rice, I'm gonna put in my veg, which is so beautiful and caramelized, especially that cabbage, and then my tofu. Which, look at the color that it picked up from the soy sauce, the chili garlic sauce, and there we go. Perfect weeknight dinner. Hits all the good food groups, and it's pretty quick, easy to make. Get some tofu. Oh. Nicely seasoned, spicy. The broccoli has those crispy tops to it. Satisfied. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today. I hope to see you next time. And feel free to like, subscribe, and follow me and my sister on Those Dang Girls for more recipe inspiration.